It is now my pleasure to introduce our second awardee in this category, Gemma Mortensen of Crisis Action.
So I'm assuming you all know the story about David and Goliath, right? Well, how many of you sometimes feel in your working life that you're battling a giant? Because you're fighting against very, very deeply entrenched interests and very, very calcified opinions, and it's hard to budge. Well, what the very small team at Crisis Action does is it disrupts the inequality which is inherent in the status quo for some of the most vulnerable people on earth. Ordinary people like you and me, for whom conflict has rendered life a living nightmare. And Crisis Action does this by giving those people a very powerful catapult. The kind of catapult you'd see David fight Goliath with in a Nike advert. That kind of powerful catapult. Now, I remember one of the first times I unleashed that catapult, or helped to unleash it, within Crisis Action. It was in 2007, when monks had poured onto the streets of Rangoon and were met with guns and tanks. You probably remember the images of that. And we were tiny at the time, and myself and my predecessor, Brendan Cox, who's somewhere here tonight, we watched horrified and picked our brains, wondering what we could possibly do to help what looked like was going to be a bloodbath. So we decided to reach out to Burma campaigners who, exhausted and sleep-deprived, somewhat skeptically, to be honest, accepted our help. Now, within 1 week, a group of 10 Burmese monks led a march of 10,000 people through the streets of London. And it was a powerful act of solidarity that was echoed in coordinated events across the world and broadcast throughout the international media. Now, at the time, the UK Prime Minister was not alone in being moved to fight tooth and nail for condemnation of the crackdown at the Security Council. A bloodbath was averted. Now, anyone in Crisis Action didn't appear in the media, didn't stand on any stage, but we provided the catapult. We helped choreograph it all. So, fast forward a few years to another chapter in Crisis Action story, this time on Syria that you just saw. It's a tragic story. I don't need to tell you how bad it is. We've heard also from Khan. Well, a few weeks ago, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, they met in Durban at the BRICS summit. And they met there to cement their ever-increasing influence on global affairs. And this matters because they're among the only governments that might bring some influence to bear on what's going on in Syria today. Now, at the outset of that summit, they planned to express only their deep concern about the situation in Syria. But by the end of it, they had made their strongest demand yet for full, safe and unimpeded humanitarian access across the country. And they had done that because Crisis Action had helped its partner organisations to mobilise in Brazil and India and South Africa, and had provided hard facts and figures so that they could jointly petition their governments, compel them to act, so that they could pepper the media with credible voices saying that BRICS must do something about Syria. And what this showed, that statement in the summit, was that there was a recognition that global leadership is about more than GDP. And officials had heard a single powerful message. This isn't about politics, it's about people. And again, Crisis Action had done that behind the scenes, empowering others to do that work and make that difference. And to me, that's why the Skoll.org award is so important, because in a time of austerity, let's face it, it's not easy, it gives you the financial security to take risks and to innovate, to save lives. And that kind of risk capital, I think, is priceless. So we're not yet at a stage where we can stop conflict outright, at least not yet. But we can ensure that when David walks into that room to fight Goliath, he stands a fighting chance.